Hi, and welcome to the Access Direct Opening Bell, your essential pre-market podcast. In just minutes, get key global updates, overnight trends, and market-moving factors that set the tone for the day. Whether you're a seasoned trader or just someone tracking the markets, this is your go-to briefing to stay ahead at all times. So let's dive straight in. Good morning on a Tuesday, and we will start with US stocks, which fell yesterday as investors prepared for a data-heavy week that is set to offer important clues on what the Fed will do in its September meeting. The S&P 500 ended 0.3% down and closed at 6,373 after touching a record high earlier, while the Nasdaq 100 declined 0.3%. July CPI data that is releasing today will be closely watched for policy direction, and that will be especially important since a recent survey had 91% respondents say that US stocks were overvalued, the highest such reading in 24 years. Talking markets, the VIX rose over 7% along with the dollar index and the US 10-year Treasury yield. In commodities, gold dropped 1.6% and settled at $3,342 an ounce as Trump said that bullion imports will not be subject to tariffs, and Brent crude traded around $67 a barrel as a tariff pause on China was extended. At home, the rupee gave up its intraday gains and finished at 87.66 as the dollar saw heavy demand from importers. Speaking stocks in the Nifty almost reversed Friday's loss as it ended the day 221 points higher at 24,585. The India VIX gained 1.5% to settle at 12.2. Mid-caps and small caps rose but underperformed the Nifty. All of the NSE sectors rose, with PSU, banks and realty rallying 2.2% and 1.9% respectively. Adani Enterprises was the best performer on the Nifty as it rose 4.8%, while Hero MotoCorp was the worst as it fell 0.8%. Technically speaking, bulls were able to push the market higher from the May gap up area, and that's an encouraging sign. If the market is able to close about 24,600 today, the rebound may extend toward the 24,720 to 24,820 area. On the downside, the 24,164 to 24,378 zone is key, followed by the 200-day average near 24,000. Meanwhile, provisional data show that foreigners withdrew 1,200 crores yesterday. The month-to-date outflow is nearly 15,200 crores. Onto derivatives now. In the Nifty's put-call ratio went from 0.66 to 1.05, while the bank Nifties went from 0.76 to 0.81. The addition in Nifty puts was materially higher compared to the liquidation seen in calls, and implied volatility fell 125 basis points, which means that market participants went bullish via the sale of puts. For options expiring on 14th August, resistance sits in the 24,600 to 700 area, while support extends from 24,400 to 500. The ranges have shifted higher, which is bullish. Elsewhere, 1% out of the money put volatility climbed more than similar distance call volatility, and that means volatility traders turned cautious at yesterday's close. Speaking net index options activity, foreigners and proprietary traders turned bullish while retail investors turned bearish. Elsewhere, foreigners' net short positioning in index futures fell by nearly 3,000 contracts to 180,000 contracts in what was a slight reduction in bearish bets. Looking forward to the day, the GIFT Nifty opened flat. Asian markets were a sea of green led by Japan, while US index futures offered little cues. Coming to stocks, Ambuja Cements, Alkyl Amine and CEAT were at horizontal support, while Dr. Reddy's was at horizontal resistance. Bharti Airtel and HDFC AMC were at trendline support, while Bajaj Auto, First Cry and Coal India were at trendline resistance. Talking market breadth, 30%, 50% and 50% of stocks in the NSE 500 were above their 50, 100 and 200-day moving averages. CPI numbers will be released both from India and the US later today. That is a wrap on the day's podcast. Please note that this podcast serves solely for informational purposes and should not be considered financial advice of any kind. For a comprehensive disclaimer, please visit our website. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow at the same hour. Have a nice day.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.